Hi everyone, this is Pete here. So today we're going to talk about one of the most puzzling news that's been coming out, and that is the US dollar being in danger of being dethroned as the reserve currency. Now, is this a real concern that you should be thinking about? All right, let's dive straight into it. So, guys, to me, right, this topic is something that I'm really concerned about because a big portion, I would say even more than 60% of my net worth is actually in the US dollar, be it in the stock market, be it in treasuries, be it in properties that's also valued somewhat in either US dollars, right? So to me, this is something that I really want to make sure that I'm not in danger of. And this is my research I want to share with you. If you are investing in US right now, this is what you must know. Okay, so let's dive straight into it, right? So this topic actually came to me when, one of my followers on my Telegram group, which all of you here, if you're watching this, do join, right? So this is where I give you more than just my YouTube content, but also my, as and when I think of something that is important, I'll just send it there first, right? Because it's much easier for me to type it out than to record a video like this. All right. So is US dollar in danger? Because even the famous Stephen Graham, right? Wow, it's over. The US China just broke the US dollar, right? Al Jazeera also talk about, wow, can Russia and China succeed? And there's even like the China dollar rebellion. What's going on? So there's a lot of very hypey news right now. Let's go into some of the content. Now, I wouldn't run through why China and Russia on that side of the story, people believe that it can dethrone US. But I'll just share with you from my perspective how this can potentially happen and why I don't think it will. Why? Because look at this, right? First thing first is a lot of the comments is saying that there are a lot less treasuries that's being held. And it's true, right? If you look at, for example, Japan, China, since the start of last year to this year, it has gone down by almost 20% for both of them. And they are the largest treasury holders, all right, for a year. And in fact, if you look at other countries, you will see that they are also, many of them have reduced their holdings over the 1 year period. Now, is this a cause for concern? Because if you actually just zoom out, not just look at a 1 year period, right? You look at a longer duration, you will see that yes, in the recent 1 year, maybe there's a little dip, but overall, the foreign holdings, right, of US treasuries, that means the US government bonds, has been increasing over the past few years. Okay. Now, another thing that I feel that puts US dollar in a very strong position, right, is this thing called the petrodollar. And basically in the 1970s, US and Saudi Arabia both agree that they will base US dollar as the oil currency, right? They will denominate oil production in US dollar. And that's what happened. Now, I think this is very hard for people to push away and say, hey, I'm going to start buying petrol in another currency because the rest of the world is basing in US dollar. So if you're the only one going out to say that, hey, I want to buy petrol in yuan or petrol in Japanese yen, right? Unless the rest of the world is together with you on this and they all change together, it is going to be very, very tough, right? So this is known as the network effect, where you need everybody to agree in unison, which I think is pretty tough for everyone to suddenly change their mind. Now, another thing is, even when people say, hey, Pete, but the national foreign reserve currency has been dropping, right, in terms of those that's being held in US dollars. So yes, indeed, right, the currency composition of a lot of the foreign reserve from over 70% back in 1999 has dropped to 59% in the latest count. And this is by IMF, okay? But the thing is this, if you just look at the overall role of US dollars in international trade, right, you can see that it has also dropped from 70% to 50 over percent. But guys, the important thing is this, even with this drop, US still accounts for more than 50%, right? So when you look at a graph like this, right, it's very misleading. They make you think that it has gone down to the bottom of the chart, thinking that it's like less than, I don't know, 20%. But this chart starts as 57%. Now, guys, in the world of business, right? Let's say you're running a business and you are in the market where you have over 50% share. This is called what? This is called going to be antitrust, right? You're going to be almost monopolistic already. So I think in this case, yes, it has been dropping a bit, but US is still very much in the lead, right? How much in the lead you can see over here is that for the rest of the world, right? If we don't just count the US and Asia Pacific, right, which also have predominant US dollar transaction. And these are what we call export invoicing. That means when they bill another counterparty, right, they actually bill in US dollar. Right? So you can see in US, of course, if you're US, is close to 100%. But in Asia Pacific, we are close to over 70%. In Europe, it's a lot lesser because they use the EU. But if you look at collectively rest of the world, US actually stands at almost 80% of all the invoicing. That means someone in the world, if they're going to bill somebody, they're going to use it in US dollar. In fact, even my own courses online, I also put it in US dollar because that is actually the most common currency that people understood. It'll be very weird if I tell people that, hey, please buy my online course and this is in Brazilian reals, right? And people will be wondering, what is this Brazilian real? And it also gives you a little bit of suspicion, like, could this be a scam, right? So there's a little bit of trust involved as well for US dollar, which I'll come to that later on, right? So, and the question is, hey, Pete, you know, why, I know there's network effect, but why can't the other currency just come together and agree that we're going to stop using US dollar? And that is for a very good reason, because US dollar has been a very, very strong currency, right? So yes, a lot of times people say that, oh, you know, you should invest your money because US dollar is devaluing, right? And in fact, US dollar has developed value over 99% of its value since the Great Depression. And all those I agree with. But yes, in the world of fiat, in the world of depreciating currency, US dollar is actually the one that depreciates the least. Okay, so if you have to hold something in fiat currency, unless you're going to escape from the fiat currency system, like if you're buying gold, buying Bitcoin, or buying property, right, you have no choice. To buy fiat currency, then you want to choose the strongest one. And over here, you can see, right, when we base US dollars against the rest of the world, right, these are the major currency index, right? Overall, the US dollar has been appreciating against the rest of the currency, right, or over the last 10 to 20 years period. Okay. Another one is not just that, the US dollar has traditionally been a very stable value. Yes, the Federal Reserve talk about increasing the interest rate, it has been printing money, so on and so forth, but you can see that the US dollar currency has been relatively stable. Whereas if you were to go into, for example, at one of the big currency that's been talked about, which is in the BRICS, right? BRICS, the C stands for what? China, right? Then the question I have is, hey, you know, do you really trust the Chinese government, the Chinese economy? Because we know that in China, it is a very much a controlled economy, right? And so is the FX, right? In fact, the world agree collectively that China has been holding back and suppressing the FX strength of renminbi. Why? Because they really want to promote China as an export nation. So if you have a weaker currency, it's much better for export. So the thing is, will these countries trust, for example, China will not play with the renminbi FX rate, the yuan rate going forward? No, I don't think so, right? Because despite all the shortcomings of US, China is in this way even worse because they have been deliberately controlling the FX rate of renminbi. So do you want to use that as your reserve currency if you are, let's say, another smaller nation such as Singapore? I don't think so, right? So but the thing is this, guys, does it mean that the US dollar will always be king? Does it mean that all the news articles, all the other YouTube videos out there, the commentators, they are not valid? I would say no, that of course nothing is 100%, nothing is guaranteed. In fact, over here, what is this picture? This is actually the United Kingdom, right? It used to be called the empire which the sun never sets because it used to colonize so many countries, and the sterling, right, the British pound used to be one of the world reserve currency, but it's no longer there, right? So could this ever happen to US dollar? Perhaps, but I think right now, given the current situation and given that the contender, right, is not another country, right? Basically, US took over UK after kind of like World War II because they become the superpower, the super nation. So it's one country taking over the other. The contender right now is this group of people, right? Is this group of countries that have to work together and trust each other and make everything work. Now, has this happened before? Is this the first time that a group of merry men came together to dethrone the US dollar? No, right? We had it before and is known as the euro. And euro right now is being used by many other nations, right? Look at here. All the blue color states are using euro. And in fact, the funny thing is this, there are some countries that's in the EU who are not using euro at this point in time, the light green countries. So is this a brilliant idea? Did it actually work out? The answer is no, right? The euro currency did not replace the US dollar. And in fact, one of the problems with such a currency where multiple countries have to come together and form this currency is that you need everyone to play ball, right? If any one of them didn't do well, for example, back in the days in 2015, when Greece had a lot of issues with its economy and it was using euro and it couldn't print euro dollars to save its situation, that's where euro gets into very, very bad shape. Okay, so you can look over here. Yes, the initial starting stage of euro was very good. It was very widely adopted, very, very fast, right? In fact, the FX really went up against the US dollar. However, look at today. After all the reality sets in, and during the 2015, during the Greece crisis, euro literally got hammered, and it has never recovered from it, right? And right now, euro against US dollar is almost at an all-time low. Okay, so will this be the next euro that actually succeed to take over the US dollar? I don't know, right? But history, if it's anything, it tells us that it doesn't repeat always, but it rhymes. And it rhymes in a way that when many countries with different interests, and they even have conflict against each other at times, have to come together and form a currency to overtake the other one, it has not proven to succeed so far, right? So I honestly think that, given the power of the US dollar, it's not going to be so easy. And last but not least, right, is one other thing is that a lot of these US dollars is not just being traded, right, or in commerce, but it's also being held in treasuries, like we talked about earlier. And the question is this, right? This network effect about countries holding US treasuries as their savings, right? Because they have savings from their trade surplus and they have to convert it into something, right? And they are now holding US treasury because they see it as a trust of value. But the important thing is this, the US treasury has the liquidity plus the volume to soak up all these foreign savings, right? Billions and billions and even trillions of dollars are available. Now, the question is, can you think of another country that can do this? I honestly think it's very, very hard. In fact, when people talk about the BRICS nation able to trade with each other on this unique currency, or they say that between the whole world, we'll just trade between these 5 different currency, right? Okay. My thinking is this. Are they truly able to trust each other that they will not accidentally go and devalue their own currency? Will they not screw each other over? In fact, if anything, right, if you don't trust each other, what happens is that immediately after the trade, they will dump their currency and go and buy something else. Now, what is the something else they're going to buy? Very likely a party that they can trust at the moment, which is US dollar. So really, I don't think this is something that I'm very concerned with at this point in time, because in summary, the US dollar has global share, right? It's a very stable currency. Even though it is a messy nation, but it still has the trust of the world. And with the network effect of the global treasuries, right, I think it is not that easy, not in the near term, that we'll see any issues with the US dollar, unless China on its own, without the other nations, can come up and say that yuan is going to take over as the reserve currency. I think that has a much better chance. Okay, so right now, as a US investor, I'm not panicking. I'm not selling my US dollar or my US treasuries. If anything, if US dollar is depreciating because of this news, guess what? I'm going to convert more of my money, right, into US dollar and to help me in my investment. Okay, so that's all I have to share with you guys. Hope you all find this useful. Let me know what you think of the content over here if you'd like to hear more of such global analysis. All right, and do subscribe and like the video. Do join the Telegram below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.